For this afternoon and tonight, a significant winter storm, including heavy snow with blowing and freezing snow.
Hello and welcome to the SnowBrains podcast, where it's my job to interview the most interesting people in the snow sports industry and pass their fascinating knowledge on to you, our listeners. I'm your host, Miles Clark. I'm a professional free skier, a mountain guide, an Alaska heli ski guide, a UC Berkeley molecular cell biology graduate, the founder and CEO of SnowBrains, and when I was about 4 years old, I was swimming with my friend Travis in the Tuolumne River at Legion Park in Modesto, California. We were walking down to get into the river when we fell into a deep hole and went completely underwater. I quickly opened my eyes and saw what I thought was a big black clam, and I grabbed onto it. And Travis grabbed onto me. My dad was right there on the bank and he was already running towards us when he saw our dog, Kentucky, swimming back to shore with me holding onto his tail and Travis holding on to me. That big black clam was actually my childhood dog, Kentucky, this black lab German Shepherd mix. He was mean as hell, but nice to us. And that is my very first memory. My guest today is Paul Raymore from Diamond Peak Ski Area, Lake Tahoe's local favorite mountain for big views, uncrowded slopes, and a seriously strong community vibe. Paul has a deep background in mountain operations and marketing, and he's here to talk about what makes Diamond Peak such a hidden gem in the Tahoe scene. Hello, Paul. Welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Doing great. Great to be with you.
You too, man. It's good to see you after a long damn time. I think we first met each other in 2004, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've certainly followed your career since you walked into my office looking to figure out a way to make a living in the ski industry. And yeah, excited to see everything you've been doing, read the stories on SnowBrains, and get to talk to you now.
I'd love to hear, what's your version of the story? 'Cause in my mind, I walked into your office and was basically at the Sierra Sun, I believe, which was a local newspaper at the time, and said, hey, do you guys want to write a story about me? What's your version of the story?
That corresponds pretty well to my memories. I mean, it was 20 plus years ago. So, yeah. But yeah, no, I remember you being very excited, very enthusiastic, and looking to get some coverage for, at that point, just your ski exploits, not so much, the website and everything that it's become. But
yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, that was probably 2004. I didn't start the website until 2013. Yeah. But I love it. I guess you knew at the time I was motivated, at least.
100%. Yes. And, as a reporter and a journalist, you love those kind of sources and kind of enthusiasm. So it was.
Well,
great.
Good. And it definitely worked out. I mean, I got the cover of that rag, that weekly, or I think it was monthly or weekly rag at the time. And that really helped get my career going, man. So I do want to always come back and I think it was my first publication and say thank you so much.
Yeah, that was probably the Action, right? That was our weekly
Action, exactly,
arts and entertainment and events and all that coverage. And yeah, it was a really fun job back in the day. I was editor of that and allowed me to go out in the community, go to cool restaurants, go to cool concerts, meet great athletes, and write about all of it. So I was blessed to have that job.
Yeah, and it was so cool that you were there, man, because you were the right person for it. And it was Greg Martin's photo, and I think it was a little bit of skiing on Donner Peak, right by the old railroad tunnels. It was pretty cool.
That's
just
right.
A beautiful place, anyway. Well, I got to ask, where did you ski last?
So, unfortunately for me, this season, I'm recovering from ACL surgery.
No, I didn't know that. Oh, man.
Yeah. Sustained ACL injury in late October, actually playing soccer, not skiing or snowboarding.
Unacceptable.
Yeah. Had surgery in December, and I'm taking the winter off.
Oh, man. Well, I'm so sorry, but you're doing the right thing, and you might as well come back next year, especially it's a little dry, so you can heal up and come back next year feeling better.
That is my goal, 100%.
Nice, man. Well, I'm fired up to learn all things Diamond Peak Ski Area today, and really what it means to be a community-owned ski resort. To me, that's fascinating. That's kind of what I want to learn about most today. But first, I would love to hear your quick and dirty life story. Do you mind telling us your quick backstory?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up up in the Northwest, Seattle suburbs. Grew up skiing at Summit at Snoqualmie, and then I would probably call Stevens Pass my home mountain as a kid.
Nice.
Used to roll up there after school on a Friday. They had night skiing on some of their runs, and so we'd buy tickets or clip tickets back in the day and go ski as much as we could, and always loved it. Was very fortunate that when I went to college down in the Bay Area, went to Stanford, which was really fun. There was a great culture of folks who would come up to the Lake Tahoe area from the Bay, and so I learned about Tahoe skiing when I was in college. Had some incredible seasons where we got to come up, braving Donner Summit and I-80 through some pretty big snowstorms, bonding with a bunch of college friends, and really fell in love with Tahoe skiing and riding at that time. And so when I graduated school, lived in San Francisco for a couple of years, but eventually moved up to Truckee right around 2000 and have been there ever since. I still live over in Truckee on the California side, even though I work over here at Diamond Peak on the Nevada side. But love the community, the vibe up here in Tahoe. It's a great place to just live, lots of outdoor activities. Got 2 kids. My oldest is 20, my youngest is 11. Raising kids in this town they're so lucky to be able to, grow up in a place like this. And I've been fortunate enough to get a job in the ski industry now for 15 years. Started my career at Alpine Meadows in the day that was pre-Alpine and Palisades merger. Then went over to Homewood for a number of years. Had a real brief stint at Dodge Ridge for like 6 weeks. And that was right before I got this job here at Diamond Peak. And I've now been here doing marketing and communications for Diamond Peak. This is my 11th season, so I've been here for 10 full years. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. It's really fun to, like you said, work for a community-owned resort. And this is a great industry to work in. I've been very fortunate to kind of get into it, meet a lot of really cool people over the years, and get to work with a lot of really fun people, including a lot of the folks from back in those journalism days. I did have a stint working, as you mentioned, at the Sierra Sun newspaper, which was another really fun job. Really got me involved in the local community and probably opened the door to the ski industry because I knew a lot of those folks from my days as a reporter. So,
well, you're definitely the right guy to talk to. 10 years at Diamond Peak and then another 10 or 15 just in the Lake Tahoe community in general. So, you get your finger on the pulse of what's going on. And in that vein, for our listeners, especially people who haven't been, paint the picture of Diamond Peak. Where is it? Who skis it? What's the vibe?
Sure, yeah. So Diamond Peak is, I would call us a boutique, community-owned, independent ski resort. We're located just above the town of Incline Village, Nevada, in the North Lake Tahoe region, but on the Nevada side. A lot of people don't realize that Tahoe spans both California and Nevada, if you're from out of the area. So we're just across the border from like the North Shore. So Kings Beach is in the California side. Then you cross the border at Crystal Bay, and you've got Crystal Bay and Incline Village. And so we're right there. As the crow flies, Diamond Peak is about a mile from Lake Tahoe. So we're real close to the lake. Base elevation at 6,700 feet. So you just kind of roll up the hill from the lake, and there you are. What we're known for is amazing views of Lake Tahoe. We got panoramic views from almost every run on the mountain, including our beginner train, which is a huge selling point for the resort. Excellent grooming. It's something we take pride in. It's something our grooming and snowmaking teams really take pride in, is providing excellent groom services for our clientele. Really great family-friendly programs and pricing.
And I love you mentioning how a lot of people don't know it's California and Nevada. And one of the reasons that it can be hard to do things, especially environmentally and all that for Lake Tahoe, is it's 2 states and 5 counties. So you can imagine how complex it gets. But what's nice is that you're located within 1 county, within 1 state. So you don't have to play all those games. And you mentioned the lake. And when I think Diamond Peak, that's what I think. It's the best views of Lake Tahoe from a ski resort anywhere. Maybe it's some of the best views of any ski resort. And what does skiing above Lake Tahoe actually mean in terms of these views and in terms of this experience?
Yeah, I mean, you're not alone in that assessment. We've been awarded some of the best views in the world by Red Bull Media House, by CNN Travel, and by every skier or rider who gets up on the upper mountain and experiences that panoramic view of Lake Tahoe you get from the Crystal Ridge or Snowflake Lodge. For me, skiing above Lake Tahoe like that, it's almost like an infinity pool on some of the runs where it looks like you're going to ski right down into the lake. And that is a pretty unique experience. You don't get everywhere. It's cool to see the way the lake changes every day. Every day is a little bit different depending on the wind patterns, the clouds. Every once in a while we'll get an inversion where there's a cloud layer like over the lake and you're skiing above the clouds, but looking out on that big expanse of where Tahoe is hidden. On those bluebird days, it's gorgeous, deep blue that Tahoe is famous for. And then on stormy days, often those storms roll in from the southwest, and so you're seeing the storm clouds, the waves and everything coming across Tahoe toward our resort, and that's a pretty unique aspect as well. So every day is different, every day is beautiful in its own way. Occasionally it's socked in, and you can't see the lake, and that's always kind of sad. But generally when that happens, it means fresh snow is either falling or on the way, so we're happy to.
Yeah, and Lake Tahoe is just, for those of us who are listening that haven't been, Lake Tahoe is something else. Was it 22 miles wide, 12 miles across, and I think 1,640 feet deep. I think it's the deepest alpine lake in North America. It is something to be seen. Almost every time I drive back into the basin, I see that lake. It takes my breath away a little bit. Let's do some details here on, tell us, how big is Diamond Peak in acres, vertical feet, trail count, anything else?
Sure. So skiable acres, we have 655, which is small by Tahoe standards, large by East Coast standards, but 1,840 vertical feet, which is pretty decent. I mean, that's pretty legit. And I always like to remind people that, we have one share of the Crystal Express that accesses our upper mountain, and that's responsible for 1,475 of that vertical. So you can really get a lot of vertical laps, a lot of vertical feet in, lapping that Crystal Express high-speed quad, and feel like you're skiing a pretty big mountain if you want to put in the work. Groomed trails or managed trails, 28. And then we've got another 15 named kind of gladed tree skiing and riding zones on the mountain. I would say approximately 500 of that 655 acres is all kind of glades, tree skiing and riding, which really opens up on a powder day and can be a really fun playground for advanced skiers and riders. And so
that sounds amazing.
The mountain is smallish by Tahoe standards, but really has more than enough for any kind of skier to enjoy, depending on the day they're there.
Absolutely. And for reference, if you're 1840, I think the longest vertical drop you can do at Palisades Tahoe in one ski is 1850. You're right there with the mega resorts in Tahoe. So that is something to be considered. And I believe you guys get over 300 inches a year of snowfall.
We say somewhere between 250 and 300 as our average. A couple of years back on that big winter of, 23. We recorded 475, I think it was.
Oh my gosh,
that was big. It was super fun, but a lot of shoveling and digging out and snow blowing as well. And then had our leaner years as well, which, based on our location, this resort has always received a little bit less snow than some of the big ones on Donner Summit, on the Pacific Crest there, or even Mount Rose that's up a little bit higher than we are. And because of that, this resort has always invested pretty heavily in snowmaking.
You guys were an early adopter, right?
We were, yeah. I mean, back when this resort opened, it was called Ski Incline back in 1966, and they opened with the West Coast first snowmaking system because they knew we would receive a little bit less snow back in 66. So yeah, that was a pretty low grade technology snowmaking wise back then. Significant upgrades since that time, but always an investment in snowmaking here at Ski Incline and now Diamond Peak.
When did the name change?
The name changed right before the 1987-88 winter, and that was when they added all of the upper mountain terrain. So they added a lift up to what is now the summit, which opened up the upper mountain, added a lot of black diamond runs, and so they changed the name from Ski Incline to Diamond Peak at that point. And that was a big, big upgrade. Ski Incline was a great family-oriented layout, designed for beginners and intermediate kind of progressing skiers in the 60s and 70s. It was tucked in a perfect little location, very wind protected. The consultant that the owners back then hired, Luigi Foger, really had an eye for mapping out runs that are going to be friendly, that are going to allow people to progress and enjoy the sport. And then being able to add that terrain on the upper mountain really opened up a lot more for advanced skiers and riders. We've got some really fun steep groomers up there. We've got all those glades and tree skiing areas. Obviously, the snow quality gets better as you go higher, and so we get deeper snow and a lot more fun off-piste skiing and riding up there.
And you mentioned that protected from the wind. I want to touch on that because you mentioned a little bit less snow, but the protected from the wind thing has a lot of value, right? So if folks that don't know, the Pacific Crest is on the west side of the lake that has Palisades, Tahoe, and I guess that's the only real resort that's right there. Sugar Bowl is also in that vein, but quite a ways further north. Anyway, that western range really takes the brunt of the storms. The wind, I mean, there's the Pacific Ocean, 6,000 more miles wide, and the first thing it hits is that crest. And then you get a little lull where the lake is, and then you got Diamond Peak. So when things are too windy at the big resorts, Diamond Peak can be your go-to because they generally aren't going to have to close because of wind, as some of the big resorts on the west side are going to experience. And I wanted to also touch on your size, and we'll come back to that. But you're saying, this is our 655 acres. And if I understand correctly, you have backcountry access. Is that right? You have some designated backcountry gates. And if you do, why was it important to provide that access?
We do, yeah. It was a couple seasons back where we put in a dedicated backcountry access gate up at the summit.
Wow, so it's new.
Relatively new still, yeah. And it was basically because our community wanted it. I'll go back to this a million times, this talk, but because we're community owned, we're very responsive to what the desires of our local residents here in Incline Village and Crystal Bay want.
And how do they provide that feedback?
In all different ways. A lot of them come and, they know our general manager who's been here for 41 years now. They know him personally. He's out on the hill all the time talking with pass holders and local residents, so they can either just corner mic or, we are ultimately responsive to an elected board of trustees that runs the Incline Village General Improvement District. That's the government agency that owns and operates the resort. So people have expressed their feedback through our board, and also just like calls, emails, chats, in the lift lines with anyone that they can grab an ear. We take feedback any way we can get it. Try to be very responsive to our community.
I think that's super cool that you guys did that, especially in response to your community asking for it. How many backcountry access gates are there?
So there's just one, and it's up at the very summit, but it does access some pretty fun terrain. You're going, generally, most people probably drop down to the east toward Washoe Lake and Eagle Valley.
Oh, off the back.
Off the backside.
Into the whole other valley, not the Tahoe Basin anymore.
Yeah, you can
That's
also traverse out along either ridge and ski down toward Tahoe and then skin back up. But because of the way the wind patterns are, often that east-facing slope after a storm, once any kind of avalanche danger settles down, it tends to get loaded up pretty nicely with fresh snow. And so people do enjoy skiing down that slope and then skinning back up.
Wow, that's really cool. I love that. And so if you're a backcountry skier, those 655 acres get a hell of a lot bigger. You pop out the back, as long as you're doing it safely, or you can always hire a guide.
Yeah, we definitely want to stress that if you are taking advantage of the backcountry access, you are fully on your own. We do not have any kind of avalanche mitigation work or ski patrol support back there. So you are in the backcountry and should be prepared with the knowledge and equipment needed to support yourself out there.
And you're really on the own when you leave the Tahoe Basin. I mean, that to me, that I haven't really done that. That's pretty cool. You're out there once you get back there. What kind of avalanche mitigation work does ski patrol do inside of the ski resort boundaries?
We're fortunate that we don't have to do very much.
There
are a few little pockets where they'll go ski check and check out the stability, but we don't have any major avalanche paths. We don't throw explosives or anything like that. And so we're fortunate in that we don't have to do that much mitigation work to get open after a big Tahoe powder day.
Which is awesome because so many Tahoe ski resorts can be massively delayed in getting things open, where I bet Diamond Peak is able to get things moving a hell of a lot quicker. And Diamond Peak, I know we're kind of drumming this, but I have a lot of curiosity around you folks being community owned. So you're community owned. What does that actually mean in practice? Is it a nonprofit? Tell me everything.
Yeah, so I like to explain it. We're almost like a municipally owned ski resort, which there are a few across the country. We're owned and operated by the Incline Village General Improvement District, which is a GID, kind of a special district chartered by Washoe County in Nevada to provide water, sewer, trash, and then community recreation services. And so Diamond Peak fits under that community recreation umbrella. And we're not a city, we're not incorporated, but it's a similar-ish structure. And so revenues from the resort go back into the Incline Village General Improvement District budget if there are excesses. And usually what I like to say is profits generated here at the ski resort go back into providing community recreation here in Incline Village and Crystal Bay. A lot of that gets reinvested here in the ski resort. Some of that might go to help offset program costs at other recreation venues we have here in town, or it might get saved for future upgrades or projects.
That's very cool. And is Diamond Peak, you may or may not be familiar with this, as I'm not sure either, is Diamond Peak the only community-owned ski area in California/Nevada?
Not the only one. We're probably the only one in Nevada. But, over in California, even over in Truckee, the Tahoe Donner downhill ski area is similar.
That's community. That's cool.
They're owned by an HOA, essentially, but their community size is very similar to what we have here in Incline Village. Their operational model is pretty similar to what we do at Diamond Peak. They're a much smaller downhill ski resort than Diamond Peak is, but I think ownership structure-wise, it's pretty similar.
How does being community-owned change decision-making compared to a corporate ski resort?
Ultimately, we're very responsive to our community. They come first. Our local residents who own property here in the community are the owners of the resort. All of our decisions are made with their best interests in mind. Generally, we try and make sure the resort is sustainable first, both environmentally as well as fiscally. We want to make sure this resort is at least breaking even, if not generating profit that goes back into the community. And then we try to cater to our local residents. And our local residents they're good skiers, they're demanding. They want to see nice facilities, they want to see great grooming. We're able to offer a very nice lodge experience, upgraded dining experiences. Our grooming fleet is top of the line because that's all things that our community demands. For me, it's a great model. We aren't necessarily answering to far-off shareholders from some corporate entity that doesn't necessarily know anything or care anything about skiing. We're answering to our local community, and a lot of them are pretty die-hard skiers.
I love that. And I think that you answered de facto my next question, which is, how does Diamond Peak define success as a ski area? And maybe that's the contentment of your community.
100%. Yeah. I mean, if our local residents are happy and we're sustainable financially wise, we're happy. And that can happen in many different ways. Big snow years, people are skiers at least, are generally pretty happy, right?
Yeah.
But low snow years, we do everything we can to ensure that our groomers are perfect. We're hosting fun special events when the weather's nice, and really just trying to bring as many people in this community together as possible to enjoy the mountains, to enjoy each other. And that includes, we have a lot of second homeowners here who own property here in Incline Village and Crystal Bay. And so it's a broader community than just the true locals who are here year round. It's bringing in people from the Bay Area, as far away as Texas, Florida, who all still own property here and come out sometimes for a couple of weeks a season. Sometimes they come out every weekend. But integrating those people into the community and the vibe here at the resort is certainly really fun. It's one of the things I enjoy about my job. And it's one of the things I think we do well as a smaller, independent, community-owned resort.
And you mentioned that, how people can give feedback, find Mike on the mountain, and a few other ways. Are there ever voting initiatives, things that are more formal, like, hey, vote on this, should we go left or right here? Or is that more done by that board of trustees?
Ultimately, the board of trustees generally makes the big picture decisions on, for example, we're looking at our Snowflake Lodge, which is our mid-mountain lodge. Mm-hmm. That was a building built back in 1966 when the resort was first
Wow, that's cool.
Built. And it's very cool. It's like this funky hexagonal shaped building, but it's got a priceless view of Lake Tahoe with a beautiful sun deck. Everyone
Definitely
loves
does.
it as a location, and everyone, I think, sees the potential in that spot to do more. But it'll be our board of trustees, informed by a lot of community feedback, that ultimately makes the decision on what do we do in terms of remodeling that, how big do we want to go, and what uses do we want that building to serve going forward? Do we want to see summer operations up there, or do we want to keep it winter only? Do we want to be able to do multiple events at the same time, or do we want to focus on just increasing the winter seating capacity for regular diners here at Diamond Peak? Ultimately, it's the community can vote for their trustee of choice and then trust those people to make those decisions. But the board of trustees does a pretty good job trying to solicit real feedback and get a pulse on the community's wishes before they make any of those decisions. And we do a lot of that work here at the ski resort as well.
Nice. And how many employees do you folks have?
We have about 250 during
No way.
the height of winter. A lot of those folks are very part-time. They might only work on weekends. Some of them might only work on busy holiday weekends. And then some of them are full-time during the winter. That number shrinks way down during the off-season. During the summer, there's probably 30 to 35 Diamond Peak employees. And I'm counting myself. Technically, I work for the entire district, but I'm counting myself and my team in that number.
Wow. To dig back into the terrain a little bit, how would you describe the terrain mix, if you will, at Diamond Peak?
I always like to say it's built for progression. Wherever you are in your skiing or snowboarding journey, we are a great resort for progressing, at least until you get to the point where you want to start hucking yourself off cliffs, like I know you do. We don't have too many of those. But yeah, for true beginners, we offer a very easy entry into the sport. We've got free parking. A lot of it's right there next to the beginner slope, so folks that aren't skiing or riding can easily get to and from their cars to the slopes, watch people who may be taking a lesson in our learning areas. As you progress from a beginner to an intermediate, we're known to have some very nice low intermediate groomed runs on our lower mountain, which are often, especially if you can come midweek, they're not crowded at all. And so it offers almost like a private ski resort experience if you can come midweek. You don't have to worry about other folks. You can really take your time and perfect your technique as you're kind of making those transitions from beginner to intermediate. And then as you transition from intermediate to advanced, we've got some really fun upper mountain cruisers. The Crystal Ridge run is our signature blue run from the top, panoramic views of Tahoe the whole way down. It's where you see all of our marketing photos pretty much, but it's very accessible for confident intermediate skier. And then there's some great steep groomers off the top when you're really ready to start carving turns on steep terrain, want to do so on some really nice groomers, we offer that. And then finally, as you're ready to get into the trees, I think Diamond Peak is some of the best tree skiing and riding in all of Tahoe. We've done a lot of work in partnership with our local fire department to thin out the forest, and the benefit of that is it makes it perfect for tree skiing and riding. They're just perfectly spaced, and we have, like I said, probably 500 acres of really nice glades to explore once you're ready to get out and get after it.
That sounds so fun. I love well-thinned trees. That is just immaculate. And Tahoe is really special with that. And skiing at Diamond Peak, which I've done, when you have that amazing tree spacing, you have powder snow and the views of the lake together, it's almost overwhelming. I'm curious how you think of Diamond Peak. How does it ski differently on a storm day versus a bluebird day?
Storm days, again, for those who are ready for it, storm days are spent in the trees. The snow really piles up in there. We get those big Tahoe storms that can drop feet of snow. We have a very deep snow pack. And so, all those rocks, all those stumps, everything that you find in the off-piste area, once that gets filled in, you can be pretty confident and take a pretty fun line through those trees. And so on storm days, a lot of folks will come to Diamond Peak, because they know we'll get open generally up to the upper mountain pretty quickly compared to a lot of other Tahoe resorts. For the reasons that you mentioned, we don't have the same wind impacts, we don't have the same snow loading or avalanche danger. And it's just fun. It's a laid-back vibe. There aren't as many people here, and so you get a lot more fresh tracks. On a bluebird day, if it hasn't snowed for a while, like we're experiencing right now, we really do focus on high-quality grooming. We invest a lot of money in our grooming fleet, in the technology that goes into the groomers, in the snowmaking system. And so we try and offer incredible groomed runs all over the mountain every day of the year. It's not always possible right after a big Tahoe storm, but the day after, if it has stopped snowing, then those groomers will be out in force, making sure that our groomed runs are as perfect as can be. And so it can be pretty fun just ripping down some fast groomers from the top and exploring the mountain that way. So either way, you can have a great day. Whatever level of skier or rider you are, you will have fun. And ultimately, you'll be staring at Tahoe while doing it, which is always priceless.
Absolutely. And I do want to keep touching this wind thing. So when the big winds hit the western resorts like Palisades, Tahoe, and Sugar Bowl and all them, and they either completely close or partially close for wind, how does Diamond Peak fare on those days? How often are you closed for wind?
Rarely. We are often open all the way to the top, even on some of those really stormy days. Not all. I mean, there are those storm days where the winds are ripping 100 miles per hour across the Pacific Crest and 60 miles per hour up at the summit at Diamond Peak, and the upper mountain will be shut down. But even on those days, the lower mountain will be open, and there's some really fun terrain. Great tree skiing, and some of the runs that really don't get skied or ridden enough, in my opinion, on the lower mountain, are super fun on those days when it's just the lower mountain here. But our lift ops crew also does a great job. They try and get that Crystal Express chair to the top open as soon as possible after a big storm. They're dealing with a lot of like rime ice and everything that every other Tahoe resort is dealing with on those days. So it's a big ask and a big chore, but they are dedicated to try and get the upper mountain open as soon as possible. And because we're a little bit more wind protected, that does happen very often during the storm itself.
And Lake Tahoe has extreme weather, make no mistake, because I've been fortunate enough to ski a few places, and there's very few places where the wind and the snow and everything comes together in just these hurricane snowstorms like Lake Tahoe. I really do see that an advantage, though, is having a little bit of wind protection and a little bit less of that brunt from the wind. And you were talking about the Crystal Express, which is a high-speed quad, right? So that's amazing. So you could get your laps in. But it makes me think of the flow, the layout of the lifts. How would you describe the layout and skier flow at Diamond Peak?
Yeah, it's because we're a little bit smaller, our lift layout's very efficient, I would say. I mean, there are, for beginners, we have two main chairs you'll ride. We have our Bunny Hill, which is called the schoolyard, accessed by the schoolhouse chair. That's kind of its own dedicated area down at the lower mountain. Then we've got our lodgepole chair, and that's kind of the next step up for beginners. Still a beginner run, but you could also take that lodgepole chair up, and that gets you to the bottom of the Crystal Express chair. But on the lower mountain, we have our Lakeview chair. That accesses a lot of the lower mountain terrain, a lot of really fun tree runs off to the west, steeper groomers, as well as a lot of intermediate cruisers on the lower mountain. And you can also get over to the bottom of that Crystal Express chair from there. And then finally, as I mentioned, the Crystal Express, that's our chair, high-speed quad up to the summit, accesses all the like steep groomers and all the off-piste runs, all the gladed tree skiing areas up near the summit. And a lot of people spend their whole day up there just spinning laps on Crystal and choosing whichever line looks best on the way down. Again, it's 1,475 vertical that chair accesses, so decent amount of vertical. You can really get a lot of laps in, a lot of leg burn. If you're here midweek and there's nobody in line, like you can get exhausted quickly on the upper mountain at Diamond Peak. I never really ski the same line twice. So yeah, it's fun. It depends on the day and who you're with, but the lift layout and the terrain layout is easy to navigate. You don't necessarily need a trail map. Everything's accessible from the fall line. It's great for mixed groups, mixed abilities, because everything kind of funnels back to the bottom. Whether you're funneling back to the Crystal Express chair or the base of the resort, it's very easy to say, like, I'm going to go ski the trees, but you can go ski Crystal Ridge and you can go ski the Great Flume, and they all funnel down to the same areas. And so a lot of families enjoy that aspect of the resort. Kids can't necessarily get lost unless they really try hard and go out of bounds. So it's very, very easy to meet up at the end. We like to call it the family meetup funnel and spend a day riding together without necessarily having to all ski and ride the same runs.
And 1,500 vert is just exceptional for any chairlift. And I'm looking at the map right now as you're describing all this. From the top of the chair, you can go left or right. There's different bowls, Golden Eagle Bowl and Solitude Canyon. Do you hike a little bit to get to those, or you just can traverse right over?
For Golden Eagle Bowl, you can traverse right in, drop in. There's multiple little spots you can drop in. Some are well known, some are a little bit more hidden. And then for Solitude Canyon, it really depends on what you want to do. There's a little bit of a hike if you want to get into the very top of it, often on a little bit of a groom track for some of the way, and then you can traverse from there. If you want to just traverse in, there's some options from the top to just do a straight traverse. It's easier on skis than on a snowboard, but it's possible on both. And then there's also a bunch of ways to get in a little bit further down the Great Flume. So if you ski or ride down the flume, and then you cut skiers right into that Solitude Canyon area, you can access a lot of that terrain just a little bit lower down.
Well, I personally love that there's some hiking. I think that just gives people a really cool sense of adventure, that you can pop off of a lift and hike up and get to something that most people aren't going to opt to do. So I think that's really exciting and gives people a lot more options.
Yeah, it's fun. In the last season, we named all of our glade zones. We actually asked our community for ideas, and so it was a community-generated kind of name the glades contest we ran. Came up with community names and had these very cool carved wooden signs made up. And so last year we finally got them put up in all the different glade zones. So they're out there now. They're not necessarily easy to find. We didn't want them to be just like right there,
Easter
from
eggs.
the groomed run. We wanted them to be Easter eggs so that people who were like out in the glades skiing might come across one and be like, oh, that's where, the Promised Land sign is, or that's where the Rollerglades sign is. And so there's definitely, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different named glade zones in Solitude Canyon. And finding all of those signs is going to be a challenge for someone. And we're going to do a contest sometime this season once we get enough snowpack to really open up all those zones to see if someone can find them all and take a selfie at each one in one day, which would be a challenge.
That sounds like a great scavenger hunt. Because, the map I have has probably means glade. There's G7, G8, G9, G10. So now those all have names. I like that. I mean, there's obviously room for it, but any plans or thoughts of expansion?
There's nothing on the books right now, but there have been thoughts of expansion in the past, and certainly a lot of suggestions from our community of expanding to that backside area where right now it's all backcountry access.
Onto the east side of the mountain.
Yeah, it would take a lot of coordination. I mean, it's a different U.S. Forest Service. There's some other landowners out in that area that would have to agree. There's a lot of work that would have to go into making that happen, but it's one of those areas that people see the potential. It would connect to the resort as it is now. So if we're going to expand, I could see that being priority target in the future. But again, there's no active plans and nothing in the works for any kind of resort expansion right now.
Almost every resort has to have some sort of talk about that, though. I don't know why. I think it's just fun and vein of exploration and excitement. I think every community likes the idea of at least something to chat about. That's fun, and so it's cool just to hear where would that potentially happen. And the best answer is off the backside. I was thinking sort of left or right, just broadening the boundary and maybe slapping a chair in there, but to put a chair over the back, that would be pretty exciting. So just fun to think and talk about, if nothing else.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of folks in the community agree.
So we've talked about crowding a little bit. It seems pretty clear that crowding is not a big issue for your folks. How does Diamond Peak avoid crowding, especially compared to some of your larger neighbors?
I mean, first and foremost, we're limited by parking. We don't have enough parking to overcrowd the resort. It's really not possible with the amount of parking spaces we have. The hill itself never be overcrowded. On the busiest peak weekends, our lodge will be busy, our rental shop will be busy, the lines for lunch will be longer than usual, the lines at the ticket window will be longer than usual. But with all of that, still when you get up to the upper mountain, there's almost never a lift line of more than 5-6 minutes at the Crystal Express chair. You'll never find too many people on any given slope. It's just we can't get more people into this place than what we get, and that's not enough to make it crowded on the mountain.
Nothing beats de facto crowd control. So that you have that in your parking lot experience is a great way to do it, because then not a whole lot of thought and strategy has to go into it. It is what it is. And this is how we roll. And so I like to hear that. And I think that was similar. We talked about Ashland this year, which they're even smaller. I think they're only 250 acres versus your 650. And they said the same thing. Yeah, it's our parking lot. And it seems like that may have been in the original design strategy. It seems like a good way to go about things. I am curious also when we're talking about layout and where the runs are, where the groomers are. We've talked about it before, but one more question on this because I think it is so integral. How much do you think the Lake Tahoe view shapes the Diamond Peak experience?
Oh, I think it's almost everything. I mean, it is just because it's on days when you can see the lake, it is just so right there and it demands attention. Honestly, there are days where you have to be pretty heads up skiing down Crystal Ridge, which is our kind of signature intermediate run from the top, because there are so many people who are stopping to take selfies, who are filming the entire way down and not necessarily paying as much attention as they should, because that view is so spectacular. And so it is really central to the experience. I feel like it is a huge component of everything I do marketing-wise. A lot of it's just highlighting other people's photos and videos from the resort and their experience. And that tells a story better than anything I can come up with, because it's authentic and it's real. And the photos, sometimes they look unbelievable. They look AI generated, but that is the view that we offer here at Diamond Peak.
It is intense. It is as if you're about to fall in the lake. And I found that too, is that it's like driving through Yosemite Valley. People are not watching the road. They are, they got the steering wheel in one hand and their phone in the other, and they're pointing things out. And keep an eye out for the people just absorbing it in and just overwhelmed. I love that. Families seems to be a big thing there. Why does Diamond Peak resonate so strongly with families?
It always has been core part of our mission, teaching skiing and snowboarding, introducing, the next generation of skiers and snowboarders into the sport. That was the original vision back in 1966 when Ski Incline opened, and it remains a core part of our business to this day, is teaching and progression. And so we try and make everything easy for families. That starts with, we offer free lift tickets for kids ages 6 and under, which I think is
wow.
The oldest that any resort in Tahoe goes up to for free tickets. I know others that do it for 5 and under. A lot, industry standards probably 4 and under. Parents with kids that age, they've got a lot on their mind and they got a lot of expenses, and so we try and make it affordable. Kids lesson programs are super affordable, some of the best value in the Tahoe Basin. We have a dedicated child ski and ride center where they've got their own camp-like experience, their own dedicated learning area with a little magic carpet fenced in so that they're separate from the rest of the resort. It's almost like a camp. You drop your kids off and we take them. Whether it's a 2-hour lesson or a 3-hour lesson, whatever it may be, they're under our care. They're going out and skiing. They're coming in to take hot chocolate breaks. They're going back out to get some more laps on the magic carpet or out on the resort, depending on their ability. But it's a very self-contained, fun program. And so parents can go out and ski and ride on their own, knowing that the kids are safe and learning something fun. And as kids get older, families get older, again, affordable lesson programs and just easy, whether it's being able to roll up without needing a parking reservation, often parking right by the slopes. You don't have to schlep all your gear through like a big village where you're walking through ice skating rinks and retail stores just to get on a gondola to get up to a first chairlift of the day. You're just going from parking lot to slopes, getting on a chairlift, and you're up and you're doing it. And so I think part of the fact that we're known as a great place for families is just because we make it easy.
Well, and that's key. And I love the free for 6 and under, and just having all those kind of programs. It helps families, it helps the community, it helps all this stuff. But really what I care about is cradle to grave, baby. It's like we got to get these kids addicted to the sport early because, as you know, the ski industry in a way was, especially as a percentage of our growth in the United States and the growth of the ski industry, was totally flat despite our population booming. We're just now starting to see a little bit of an increase in skier visits, which is essentially one skier or snowboarder skiing at a ski resort one day. And so, yeah, we got to get the kids hooked. So I'm glad that you guys are part of that. And I think it's something the East Coast does really well, right? There's all these tiny community-run ski resorts, and they have 400 vertical feet. That might be a big hill, honestly. They have 150 vertical feet, and it just gets kids on snow. And they have great deals for families. It's all very affordable. Not something we're very strong at on the West, I would say. And so it's great to see Diamond Peak doing that, especially as a community-run ski resort. I'm curious, too, about the one thing that is been frustrating in my ski career is, again, all these damn East Coast kids growing up on these little community hills skiing on ice, and they all have these youth skiing and racing programs, and they're so good at skiing, and then they come out west and it's like powder soft snow and they just go nuts. They're so good. I'm curious what's Diamond Peak doing with, say, youth racing and forums like that?
Yeah, we're fortunate. We have got a very strong partnership with the Diamond Peak Ski Team, or Diamond Peak Ski Education Foundation is technically the name of the nonprofit that runs that program. It's a partnership. It's not owned or managed by the ski resort itself, but we have a great working relationship with the Diamond Peak Ski Team, and they've got some great programs, whether it's Mighty Mites for the little Groms who are just getting started into the racing, to their development teams for kids of all ages. They've produced some great athletes over the years, and a lot of kids will often graduate from their programs to some of the bigger name programs if they're at the level where they need a little bit higher level support. But that's a great partnership. It allows us both to do what we do well. They do a lot of training and early ups, and they're actually growing their master's program as well. So some of those older folks who are getting back into ski racing or trying it out for the first time in their lives, fun to see that growth because, like you said, the ski industry does need anything we can do to keep growing the sport and getting new people into it, whether they're into racing, whether they're just into casual skiing and riding. We're all in it together and trying to grow that pool and show people how much fun these sports are.
Well, we got to hook them young. So it's great to see you guys are out there doing that, helping with that. And I think the ski teams are such a great way to make terrific skiers and riders. It speaks more to your general skier, snowboarder community that exists around the resort in the Incline Village zone. What's that skier snowboarder community like? Are there any like bizarre locals, or I don't know? Tell me everything. What kind of people come and ski? Are the diehard locals of Diamond Peak?
It's an interesting community here in Incline Village. There's a lot of like real diehard skiers and riders, and a lot of folks that have, we talk to our pass holders all the time and ask them, where else do you ski? And they're like, well, I got an Icon pass, I got my Epic pass, I got my Mount Rose pass, and I've got my Diamond Peak pass for those storm days when I know all those other resorts are going to be closed. And so they're going all over the Tahoe area. They're taking trips out to Colorado or Utah, and they're also skiing and riding as much as they can here at their home mountain. And so some ripping skiers. I would say the vibe here is a little bit more understated. It's not like Palisades where you're going to go and chill at the chamois afterwards and talk about how extreme you got
pink
at
outfit.
Diamond Peak. Yes, exactly. It's much more laid back, and people enjoy that. Honestly, we made a marketing April Fool's video last year about how we're the anti-marketing department and we're trying to keep people from talking about Diamond Peak. And that's kind of the vibe sometimes is we had a great day. Don't tell anyone else.
Yeah, because it could be the same tomorrow. Don't tell them.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I mean, there's a good community of diehard skiers. Another thing we offer here, which is fun, is uphill access during our non-operating hours. So early in the morning or after the resort closes. That's open to local residents of Incline Village or Diamond Peak pass holders, and they have to sign up for an uphill access pass. But it does allow them to then skin up while we're not operating as a ski resort. So I believe it's from 5 a.m. until essentially 8:30 in the morning, and then from 4 p.m. until about 8 p.m. at night. Skin up and ski back down the same route they skinned up. But it's a fun experience for folks that aren't quite ready for the backcountry, but they do want to get that uphill exercise and that chance to kind of see the resort at a non-operating time. So sunset is beautiful up there on the upper mountain if you can be skiing down or skinning up. Obviously sunrise is quite beautiful when you're skinning up as the sun's coming up, and then skiing down looking at Tahoe in those early morning hours too. So again, one of those programs we offer because we're community owned and the community wanted it. And limited availability, you do have to be a local resident or a Diamond Peak season pass holders to take advantage of that, but something that is super fun that we offer.
And I bet that's epic too, if either of those before and afters coincide with a full moon. Pretty special. Next question might tie in with that exactly thing. What traditions or rituals feel uniquely Diamond Peak to you?
We've got, there's some fun community events that we've been throwing for years and years. I would say those really highlight kind of the culture we have here, community vibe. Our dummy downhill is one that I always tell people, whether you ski, snowboard, or just enjoy a good party. That one's always held in the spring. People build these elaborate dummies, we call them, on skis or snowboards, and then they launch them off this massive jump that our slope maintenance team builds. It's a ridiculous spectacle, some amazing costumes, some amazing creativity. It's always fun to see local, like, 3rd and 4th grade or kindergarten classes all collaborate and build a dummy for that event. And it's amazing to see them launch off the jump and see which ones make it, see which ones crash really hard. We were fortunate enough that is actually included in this year's Warren Miller movie. And so if you see this year's Warren Miller, you'll see the Diamond Peak dummy downhill. And they really did a great job capturing just the fun of that event and the madness of everything that goes on. That one kind of epitomizes like spring in Tahoe and spring here at Diamond Peak. It's very much a community vibe. Folks that, like I said, don't ski or ride, they all come out because it's such a fun event. Generally, the weather is beautiful as it is in Tahoe in the spring, and it lets the whole town come together, from little kids in kindergarten classes to the old grizzly graybeards who've been skiing and riding here since 1966, and it was ski incline, sharing stories and taking photos and just building on that culture that we've got going here at Diamond Peak.
I'm so glad I asked about that because that sounds really unique and really cool, and how fun that it's in the Warren Miller movie. I think it's a highlight. So for our listeners, make sure you see the Warren Miller movie and look for that. I'm going to go see the Warren Miller movie just to see that part.
Yeah, and I will forever get to say that I am in a Warren Miller movie, even though I'm just holding a microphone.
Just don't add anything else. I'm in the Warren Miller movie. Check it out.
Yep.
That's so cool, man. And it sounds like you're obviously involved in the dummy downhill. That's pretty cool. How do you see Diamond Peak fitting into the broader Lake Tahoe ski resort ecosystem? And how do you think Diamond Peak punches above its weight?
I think we're lucky to be part of the Lake Tahoe ski scene, I mean, anyone who skis in Tahoe is so fortunate. There's so many options. What are there, like 13, 15,
I think
18 different
ski
resort
resorts.
options?
Crazy.
I mean, it's ridiculous. The variety we have, and each one kind of has its own niche, which is incredible. You know, whether you're skiing the big mountain lines at Palisades, the chutes up at Mount Rose, super deep pow up at Sugar Bowl or Kirkwood, crazy like opera scene that Heavenly offers, or just the more laid back vibe at a place like Homewood or Diamond Peak. There's something for everyone. And honestly, like if you're coming out as a visitor and you're going to spend a week in Tahoe, like I always tell people, don't just ski at one resort.
Yes.
Get a sample, go to a couple different spots, and make sure Diamond Peak is one of them, just because that view of Lake Tahoe from the slopes is something you won't get anywhere else. So yeah, we have our niche. I think it's great to be part of the bigger Lake Tahoe ski scene, and I think Diamond Peak fits really well into that. Again, it's a spot where if you're coming from out of state, get a sampling, because there's something to be found at every different Tahoe ski resort. And here at Diamond Peak, it's incredible tree skiing. It's great conditions on those stormy days when we're a little bit less wind impacted, and it's a world-class view of Lake Tahoe where you'll leave with some selfies that you will show all your friends and family.
And Diamond Peaks also, I think, fits into the Tahoe ecosystem as a terrific value. So talk to me about that. You guys have cheaper lift tickets. Tell me about the value of Diamond Peak and why you've used that strategy.
Yeah, we try to offer an incredible value throughout every product we sell. We are not the cheapest lift tickets in Tahoe, and we don't want to be. We feel like we offer a very great experience, but we aren't anything close to what you'd pay if you walk up and buy a day ticket at the really big mega resorts here in Tahoe. So much more affordable. We try to offer, programs like we have a parent interchangeable ticket, where if parents have young kids that aren't yet skiing, you can buy one lift ticket, same price as an adult ticket, and you can swap that between mom and dad or both parents. So one can watch young children in the lodge, the other can be out taking a few laps, and then they can swap the ticket to the other parent.
That's really cool.
So yeah, one of those things that just makes skiing a little bit more affordable for those families with young kids who aren't yet able to get out on the slopes themselves. And then it carries through to everything else, whether you're talking about the price of chicken tenders and fries at our Base Lodge Provisions food court to a beer in our loft bar. We try and keep those prices as affordable as possible while still being sustainable and generating some revenue and some profit for the resort.
That's terrific. Well, I do think that's huge. And again, coming back to that community-owned thing, let's get people out skiing and riding and make it valuable for them. Let's make lift tickets affordable. You got basically childcare affordable, and make sure those chicken tenders are affordable. What's the future look like for Diamond Peak? What do you want to be known for in 5-10 years from now?
Hopefully the same things we're known for now, which is providing great community experience where you come in as a visitor and leave feeling like you've made a couple new friends, whether that's just lifties who help make your day better, troll who may have assisted you if you had any kind of problems on the slopes, or just fellow skiers and riders that you happen to ride a chair with. Those kind of friendships are made every day here on the slopes, and hopefully that will continue for the next 60 years. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary this season.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. It's actually a lot of fun. I've been out trying to talk to some of the old timers who've been around since those ski incline days and hear their stories about what made the resort special. And it's fun to hear that a lot of made it special back in the day is still true today. It is that community vibe. It is those people who are meeting up for a women's ski clinic, for example, and then becoming lifelong ski buddies from there. Those are the kind of things that we hope to continue, and hopefully will continue for years to come.
Absolutely. And if someone came and skied Diamond Peak just one time, what do you hope they walk away feeling?
I hope they walk away with a couple great stories, because that's really what life is all about, right? A couple amazing photos of Lake Tahoe, some selfies, that unreal backdrop, maybe a friend that they met on the lift, and having had a great day on the slopes in the mountains here in Tahoe.
I mean, getting to experience a community-run resort, I just think is too cool. I'm really proud of what you guys have done. I have a really soft spot in my heart for nonprofit and community-run resorts. We just don't have enough of them, and it's awesome to see one like Diamond Peak just doing so well. And I now want to ask you some very personal questions about a lightning round, if you will, about skiing Diamond Peak. So what's your favorite inbounds lap on a storm day?
For For me, on a storm day, so I'll get up to the Crystal Express chair, get up to the summit. I will drop into Golden Eagle Bowl at the top, and then the base of that, it pops you out onto Crystal Ridge for a little bit, and then I will drop down into one of the glade zones that's called Glade Runner. That one for me is just like the perfect kind of like perfectly spaced trees, very flowy, a few little like stumps and rock drops that you can hit if you know where they are. And then that dumps you right back to the base of the Crystal Express chair, so you can go up and do it again or find a different line. But that's my personal first lap on a storm day if I can get it.
Favorite spring corn lap?
Ooh, that one has got to just be the classic. From the summit, take Crystal Ridge all the way down to Lakeview Run. And then from Lakeview, you can jump into Penguin and get all the way down to the base. But Crystal Ridge is a west-facing groomer, those panoramic lake views the entire day and the entire way. And that perfect spring corn is something that you experience all the time on that run when the conditions are right. So,
well, especially with that a little bit more west facing, you guys get those amazing sunsets. You know, it's just so backwards that we call Sunnyside that west shore, where you get no sun over there. The sun is on the east shore over in Incline Village and Diamond Peak. All right, how about breakfast? If you are running late and you got to grab some breakfast at the mountain, what do you get and where?
I do the veggie breakfast burrito at our Base Lodge Provisions food court. They do a great job. It's a massive burrito. It'll honestly keeps me full pretty much all day long. Nice. And it's a pretty good value as well. So their specialty is the sunrise sandwich. That one's a couple eggs on toast, add bacon or ham if you want. They sell a lot of those as well. For me, it's the breakfast burrito, and I'm veggie, so that's how I do it. But either of those are great options.
And where I'm basically a veggie too, that sounds great. The last one here is just more or less après ski or après eat food, where I call it après tea. Where would you send people once they leave the resort and they're headed into Incline Village or wherever's closest? Where do you send people to go for après drink and some food?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great options in Incline. It's one of the cool things about being here in this community. You know, one of the spots that we often send people down to is the Alibi Ale Works Public House in Incline Village. Local craft brewery, great beers on tap, really nice selection of food options, and they often have, you know, live bands or other entertainment, trivia nights, that kind of thing going on all winter long too. So Alibi Ale Works is right down the hill and a great option once the après scene closes down here at the resort.
In 96, 97 winter, I lived in Oregon, Bend, Oregon. I learned how to ski at Mount Bachelor. And Kevin Drake was a friend of mine. Oh, wow. And he's one of the owners of Alibi. So I always wish him the best. And he doesn't need it. They're just killing it. And also, I love Tees burritos. So it's pretty rare that I go to the east side of the lake and drive past Tees Burritos. That place is just magic. The food is so good there.
Definitely
legendary. Paul, I really appreciate your time and energy today. It's fascinating to learn about Diamond Peak, a true community-owned ski resort, which is a blessing of a thing that we need more of. A very special gem. Do you have anything else you want to share here at the end of the show?
No, just, come on out. We are celebrating our 60th season of operations this year, which is super fun. It allows us to really look back and then look forward. And so hopefully people can come out, be part of that celebration. If you have any great stories or anything like that from back in the day, I want to hear them. So get in touch, the marketing department here, and share those. Come on out. Don't be shy about, our skiable acreage or anything like that. Diamond Peak skis a lot bigger than it looks on paper, and any skier or rider can have a fun day here at Diamond Peak. So come on out, let us show you some Nevada and Incline Village hospitality. Leave with that amazing selfie in front of Lake Tahoe, and hopefully some great stories to tell.
Punches above its weight, people. Thank you so much, Paul. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much for listening to the SnowBrains podcast. If you liked this podcast, please share with friends and family, and please be sure to subscribe. To find out more about SnowBrains, please visit us at snowbrains.com. You can also find us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and more. This episode of the SnowBrains podcast was edited by Liam Abbott, and I'm your host, Miles Clark.